Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce Congressman Brad Sherman of California, who is the co-author of our House resolution, which I'll mention at the end of our meeting. But welcome, and I'll certainly introduce you, or recognize you.
Okay. I won't take long. I'm torn. On the one hand, we've got the whole intel community is going to brief the senior members of the Foreign Affairs Committee on the Iran oil exports and our sanctions, and on the other hand, I want to be here. So I will be briefer than usual. I'm Congressman Brad Sherman from America's best named city, Sherman Oaks. I'm pleased to be with so many colleagues and friends from the National Council of Resistance of Iran and the Organization of Iranian American Communities as we work someday to visit, or for many of you, return to a democratic, secular, peaceful, non-nuclear Iran. I'm honored to be with Maryam Rajavi, the President-elect of the National Council of Resistance in Iran. It was good to speak to you by phone just last month. This bloodthirsty regime occupying Tehran is a threat not only to all the people in Iran, but to the region and the world. That is why I've joined with my friend and fellow Californian Tom McClintock in introducing the resolution that was introduced today, calling, of course, for a democratic, secular, non-nuclear Iran, consistent with the 10 points that Maryam Rajavi has put forward. This legislation has 150 members introducing it, including, I might add, 50 Democrats. So I want to thank everyone here who's involved, and I realize it's been a long time that you've been fighting for a free Iran. We need to keep working on it. We need a U.S. government that supports all of the groups that are working for a democratic Iran. We have to remember 1988 and the massacre that occurred of so many political prisoners back then. And I've been working with you for 28 years, and I say I'm going to work with you for another 28 years, but we're going to get this done much, much sooner than that. But we'll be working with a democratic Iran. We'll be working on on good relations between the two countries. There will always be problems, and we will find solutions. And finally, we've seen this regime lose a lot of strength in Hezbollah, lose the Assad regime. They are hopefully on their last ropes, and I want to visit Iran. It's a beautiful country with such an incredible history. I don't think the current government is going to invite me, but I hope the next government will. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brad. And now it's my honor to introduce the leader of the Iranian opposition, the President-elect of the National Council of Resistance in Iran, Mrs. Maryam Rajavi. Mrs. Rajavi.
Chairman McClintock, Chairman Steve Cohen, co-chairs of the Iran Human Rights and Democracy Caucus, honorable members of the Human Rights and Democracy Ashraf and Iranian Women's Caucuses. I'm very happy for having the opportunity to share the latest developments in my enchained homeland in one of the most sensitive periods of its history with the U.S. House of Representatives. And hello, Mr. Sherman. Thank you for your presence. Let me first pay tribute to Dr. Al-Khavid Al-Quadras, former Vice President of the European Parliament, who was the target of an attempted assassination for his support for the Iranian resistance. Honorable representatives, allow me to begin by this. the situation of the Iranian society is explosive. During its 46-year rule, the religious fascism has never been so weak and fragile. The mullahs are surrounded from all sides by a society that is filled with anger and rebellion, by resistance units, by selfless and rebellious youth, and because of its bankrupt economy and corruption in the government, particularly after the overthrow of the brutal dictatorship of Assad and the collapse of the regime's strategic debt in the region. The regime is trying to preserve its shameful rule through widespread executions in Iran and by creating fear. Behruz Ehsani, one of the supporters of the MEK, after learning of his death sentence, said, "I will not bargain for my life. I'm prepared to give my life for the people of Iran to be free." Over the past 4 decades, this regime has executed more than 100,000 people on political groups. This book shows more than 20,000 of them. We would greatly welcome it if the regime were to change its behavior through negotiations, because any form of retreat accelerates the regime's downfall. But such an expectation is an illusion. On February 4, Khamenei said, "Negotiations are neither wise nor intelligent nor honorable." Over the past 4 decades, the regime has used negotiations as a tool for deception to continue its nuclear weapons program and its destructive policies in the region. The Iranian people's desire and the only solution to the Iranian crisis is the regime's overthrow by the Iranian people. Overthrowing the regime does not happen by itself. Although comprehensive sanctions have a considerable impact by weakening the regime, but they do not lead to its overthrow. An organized resistance and a force on the ground are the necessary elements to do the job. The People's Mujahideen Organization of Iran and the Iranian resistances nationwide network inside the country with the resistance units where women play a pioneering role, undertake brave and daring activities. In confronting a misogynist regime, women play the leading role. These resistance units are Iran's freedom fighters and the driving force for change. Any decisive policy on the Iranian regime needs to recognize the role of the Iranian resistance in order to be effective and lead to the liberation of Iran and the region from a terrorist fundamentalist regime. The right to resistance is recognized by the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and American Declaration of Independence. Honorable representatives, the National Council of Resistance of Iran, with over 450 members from various tendencies, has been the most enduring political coalition in Iran's history. The NCRI has programs and specific plans for women's rights and freedoms, autonomy of nationalities, equality of followers of all religions, separation of religion and the state, and a non-nuclear Iran. I've always emphasized that we are not seeking to seize power, but to transfer it to its rightful owners, namely the people of Iran and their votes. The NCRI has a plan of action for the post-Mullahs Iran, outlining the roadmap for the transfer of power. The establishment of a provisional government, which will remain in power for a maximum of 6 months following the overthrow of the regime, its primary responsibility will be to organize free and fair elections for National and Constituent Assembly. Once the Constituent Assembly is formed, the provisional government will step down. Sovereignty will be transferred to the people's representatives in the Constituent Assembly, who will form a new government for a 2-year term tasked with drafting, approving, and conducting a referendum on the constitution of the new republic. The source of the policy mistakes regarding Iran over the past 4 decades has been ignoring the Iranian people by the failure to recognize this organized resistance and the existence of a democratic alternative. The resolution you introduced today presents a principled policy that emphasizes the Iranian people's desire to reject both religious and monarchic dictatorship, recognizing the rights of the Iranian people, the protesters, and the resistance units to confront the IRGC and repressive forces to bring about change and establish a democratic, secular, peaceful, and non-nuclear republic for the future of Iran. In these circumstances, a firm policy should include a series of necessary steps. First, activating the snapback mechanism leading to re-implementation of all the UN Security Council resolutions and the complete shutting down of the regime's entire nuclear program. Second, placing this regime under Chapter 7 of the UN Charter due to its threats to global peace and security. And third, recognizing the Iranian people's resistance for regime change and the resistance units' fight against the IRGC. Thank you all very much.